Are we living through the end of Western society? And what could ever make us think that this was the case? Let's take a look at some evidence. So right, I'm not the first person to say that Western society is almost over. And I'm not even sure I exactly believe that. But I can see some writing on the wall. And the last piece of the writing that I saw came from this book here, White Fragility. I'm doing a much bigger review of that coming up, but it's been on the New York Times Horace 100 list on 2 non-consecutive occasions now. It's done very well. And of the many things in there that are interesting, in chapter 1, titled The Challenges of Talking to White People About Racism, there's only 8 pages in that chapter, and I noticed while reading it, the word taught, T-A-U-G-H-T, excuse me, appeared 9 times. That's more than 1 per page. Now, it's not a word that you hear that very often. If you include the word training and teaching, you get even more than 9, and those words all kind of mean the same sort of thing. Why is it that the language used in this sort of book includes this notion that human beings are educated in a certain sort of way or led to believe a certain sort of thing, which is what the word taught gets us to? Let me choose a sentence or give you some context. Let me read a couple of times that the word taught is used from the book. However, like most white people raised in the US, I was not taught to see myself in racial terms. These groups matter, but they don't matter naturally as we are often taught to believe. Rather, we are taught that they matter and that the social meaning ascribed to these groups creates a difference in lived experience. We are taught these social meanings in a myriad of ways. So there you go, 4 instances of the use of the word taught in this book. I believe the word is going to be used a lot, and it's being used because we're coming to the end of egalitarianism. So to take you back a few years, let's choose, I don't know, John Locke, John Stuart Mills, or maybe between those two, Jean-Jacques Rousseau, probably Mary Wollstonecraft, somewhere around that early English and continental Enlightenment period in Europe. Everyone had this idea that we're all just a tabula rasa, a blank slate, that when you're born, you have no predisposition to anything. Your biology, your brain, what you're born with, carries no propensity to act one way and not another. 100% of everything is nurture, or that you're brought up a certain sort of way. You and I, are now living through this area. We have some significant evidence that that's wrong. I believe I'm going from memory here, but the research was done in 2001 by a Professor McRae and co, and it's been done many times since, and it's always proved the same thing. That in countries that have high level of egalitarianism, where men and women are really equal and have all the same rights and the same opportunities, there are very, very big differences between men and women. Jordan Peterson frequently points to the difference in the big 5 personality traits, that women are higher in trait neurosis and trait agreeableness, and men seem to be high in trait openness and trait conscientiousness. If you go to, say, like Southeast Asian or South American or African countries, there's not that big a difference between men and women. But if you go to, say, Denmark or Sweden or Norway or somewhere like that, you'll find marked differences. In a country like Sweden, where there's huge egalitarianism and women have all the opportunities in the world, it's still all chicks in nursing and all dudes in engineering degrees. This is fairly good evidence that freeing ourselves up to be whatever we are naturally, our supposed tabula rasa, is really leading females with their female biology down one psychological path and men down another. So why the word taught? Why is this coming into our lexicon at a rate of knots? Well, the deal is this. If you're a human being living in the world and you have your eyes open and your ears open and you're looking and seeing and feeling and smelling and touching, you notice differences between men and women. And it's those differences that makes us abandon the concept of equality. But if you have some sort of liberal arts degree, and if you've been forced to sit for 3 to 5 hours a week in a classroom full of Marxists, you'll have noticed, like I did, that this word taught is very important. It gets to the idea that what we know, or the meaning of words that we believe exist, aren't there somewhat naturally, that they are constructed. Now, that seems a given. Yes, of course, meaning to words is not a natural thing like atoms or waterfalls or rocks or rivers or stones. Clearly, human beings made them, but perhaps they were made, meaning of words were made sort of like as part of a huge cultural game of millions of people interacting all the time. So if you've ever met any Australians, you'll notice that we'll say things like true blue, dinky die. My favorite one is the use of the word yeah nah. I don't know what yeah nah means. I use it every day. I use it in almost every sentence. I still couldn't tell you what it means. I don't know who invented true blue. I don't know who invented dinky die. But all different cultures have their various vernacular. Marxists would have us believe that This vernacular was created by powerful people so as to oppress us all, or to inject deliberate meanings into our use of words, to control us, to make us think that women are weak and that men can't have babies and that women menstruate and that men die sooner and that women are better at child raising and men are more aggressive. None of those things are naturally true. They are pure constructs. Now, they may be constructs of just the big game of living, just of hunting and running and making shelter and finding clean water and then building a city and having an agrarian revolution and negotiating trade and sometimes war, and 150,000 years since we left Homo erectus, or whatever we were before we are now. We came up with meanings for men and meanings for women that are just thousands of years old. To the Marxists, it's all constructed. Someone made us think this deliberately for power, hence the word taught. So let's come back to the sentences that I was reading. These groups matter, but they don't matter naturally, as we are often taught to believe. So whatever it is, the context of this particular sentence, we're saying whatever it is we believe, something or someone, some conspiracy theory got to us and taught us that women were natural mothers, when really men could have babies just as easily, or we could be the stay-at-home individuals just as easily. That you believe that women have babies and women are more likely to stay at home and raise the kids, well, you've been taught that. See, if we didn't use the word taught, we might use the word found or discovered. We came upon the meaning of woman as being the one who gives birth to babies. We discovered that men are stronger than women are. The use of the word taught is manipulative, that something or someone with a plan planted seeds in our mind to make us think women were one thing and not another. It was never us just discovering this, stumbling upon it, finding it. Of the thousands and thousands of cultures across dozens of continents and islands, they all came to the same sort of conclusions, that women are the child givers and that women are the child rearers and the baby makers. No, in each of those cultures, on each of those continents, in each of those islands, there was a plan behind it, and you have been taught it. So how does this all tie in with the end of Western society? If we believe this, that everything you have been taught, someone has planted it in your mind, then everything means nothing, and nothing is everything, and all that you think you believe is a lie, and human beings can't go on this way. So how do we fix this? Well, we just have to have a pair of balls on us and just understand that whatever you think about whatever races or cultures or genders or whatever there is out there, you should question, do you really believe that? Have you just read a book on Australian Aborigines? Have you just seen Crocodile Dundee? And then everything you think you know about Australian Aborigines, you think you know because you saw Crocodile Dundee? I don't. I grew up in a town with tons of whites and Noongars and Wadjulas, we would have called them, in that town. And what I know about at least the Noongars in that particular town, I know because I grew up with them. So I don't think for a second that someone's got to me and planted any sorts of ideas that I have in my head, whatever they may be. If it turns out that there are real differences between men and women, what are we going to do about it? I mean, that's the end of egalitarianism, right? There's just going to be differences. I suppose we'll pin all our hopes on the idea, but the next female born might not necessarily, she might be Brienne of Tarth, as unlikely that is, and she might be stronger than many men. But I don't think that's going to fly very well. I would imagine we're approaching the end of egalitarianism here. What comes after? It's either going to be a period of this crazy Marxist dream that we can believe that men and women are equal if we just unlearn everything we've learned. But more likely, it's going to be a return to some sort of traditional society where men occupy one role and women occupy another. All right, that's enough for me today. I am going to do a longer podcast on the White Fragility book. It was terrible. It was really terrible. Spoiler alert, but if you listen to this channel, I imagine you knew that already. Hit like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video, guys. Bye now.